Man, how are you?
I'm doing really well, Neil. Hope you had a great week. Ready to talk to our new guest. I'm excited.
Yes, Billboard charting artist Evan Kraft joins us. He trades the stage for Open Road in a powerful debut book. How are you, Evan? Thanks for stopping by.
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. So, Greg, you go first. But you, Greg, as Greg knows, he's talked to a lot of people who have written books since we've worked together, and also some of your friends, right, Greg?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But Evan, it's pretty exciting to talk about you, but let me ask you, what inspired you to take on such this extreme journey cycling across South America? You know, was it to rediscover your purpose or what was it about?
Yeah, I mean, I was 25 when I kind of thought I hit my peak. I was playing in front of a massive crowd in Colombia, and uh, there was a disconnect because you can't really have a moment with 80,000 people at the same time. And I thought, God, like what am I doing? Because I could sing these songs, but they can listen to it on Spotify. But what's beyond this? Did I hit it at 25 and then it's just downhill from there? And so one of my best friends cycled across the US, and I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard of. And I thought, he said, "Hey, but there's a lot of purpose in helping other people. Why don't we do something together?" And so we built a tour and we would cycle from place to place, but there was so much more when we ended up inviting two Venezuelan Paralympic athletes. And so that's where the story gets a little crazy.
Wow. And then you thought of this from doing this. What made it the idea of a book? Kind of, did it just come into place? How did that happen?
So I am gringo. I did not grow up speaking Spanish, and I ended up working in Spanish Christian music and living in South America. But I read a book by Reinhard Bonnke, a missionary from Germany to Africa, that inspired me. And so, sometimes I've asked myself the same question, why am I doing this? And it's because it was a book that changed my life. And so I believe hopefully a few people will be able to read this and say, hey, I want to live radically for Jesus as well.
Wow. You talk about the extra mile mindset. What does that mean to you, and how can our listeners apply it in their own lives?
I think there's a lot of like gravity that takes us down to the status quo of like why, I'm already tired. I'm already doing enough. I have too many responsibilities. But if I want to live a life that is beyond the status quo, I have to go the extra mile. And the Bible talks about it. Like when somebody asks you to carry their things 1 mile, go two. And it sparks curiosity. Why are you doing this? You don't have to do it. I've had so many people ask me in Latin America, and not that I can sing better, that I write better songs, but why are you here? And so when we do these crazy things, when we help our neighbors, when we, pay for somebody at a coffee shop, people ask, why are you doing this? And so it's not just the act of doing it, but it's the curiosity that sparks a conversation that can, lead people to Jesus.
And what's amazing is how you got involved in Latin music and how it's grown so much and your following and everything. So you have this fan base. How did this did you get involved in that? What made you want to go that route?
Yeah, so I read a book. I was studying Spanish, and my dad is the director of a homeless shelter in Los Angeles, and a lot of the guests were from Central America, and I would talk to them when I would go down and help out giving out lunch. And I was so curious, to talk to these immigrants of, hey, why did you come here? What are you doing here? And they would explain to me the economics that, oh, I can make money here and send it to my family. Or, I'd ask them, why don't you speak English? Well, I'm painting houses all day. I just want to I don't want to go have to work more after work. And so it sparked this thing in me of, if you want to love your neighbor as yourself, you need to speak to them. And so that was the first thing. And then I thought I'm never gonna have a music career. I'm gonna go be a missionary. And I went down to Tijuana, and it was a matter of weeks before people were inviting me to their churches, and it was just I just was saying yes to opportunities. And I really believe that God ordained those steps. So it wasn't this master plan of, hey, let's go. And I mean, there was a lot of arrogance that God had to take away or humble in my life, but there was no master plan. It was really like holding on for dear life uh, through through what I felt like I'm being dragged by a boat, like on a rope. But it was so fun.
Wow. Hey, Evan, when did you first realize that playing it safe can actually be dangerous for your soul?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I was on tour and I'm questioning, God, like I just don't want to be an entertainer. I don't want like, we have this natural, I talk about this with my wife a lot, is that there's feels like there's a lot of downward pressure in life. It's like money spends itself. Like everything can, if you're not growing, you're going downwards. And so in order to live, get to the place that I visualize I'm in my mind in 10, 20 years, it takes daily steps. And so not being okay with, okay, yes, I have a career. Yes, I have a home. Yes, I'm doing these things, but how can I incorporate more people? How can I build up more people? How can I build a legacy? And at the same time, it's not something I have to strive for every day, but find rest in God. And I went to the park this morning with my family, and it's a huge privilege to be able to do that. But I see this is a long-term investment in my life. Ciclo Vida, the extra mile trip that we did was not an overnight thing. I mean, I made the decision quickly, but it took a year to plan. And so I love when people say, you overestimate what you can do in a year, but you underestimate what you can do in 10. And so, that's why I think that it's a mindset of building up your life and building up your calling.
Yeah, and that's the key thing is that when you wake up every day with a mission and purpose, it's a totally different thing than so many people deal with. You know exactly what you want to do and where you want to go, and you want to continue to grow. That's what it sounds like as you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think like I had a mentor tell me in my 20s because I had a lot of ambition, and it was, hey, if I don't win a Grammy by the time I'm 25, I'm a failure. And he was like, slow down there. Like he's like, your 20s are setting up your 30s. And so, I don't want other people to think like, hey, I didn't reach the zenith moment by the time I was 25. I hit a ceiling when I was 25, and I thought, I need purpose. I need to know that what I'm doing is like I love music, but I sing Christian music. The reason I sing Christian music is because I believe in the message. I don't do it because I'm all in on music. It's a way, it's a conduit for me to communicate something. And so if tomorrow the best way for me to do it is write a book, then I'm going to write a book. But I have to keep my focus on what is the main purpose of my life. And I think for every Christian, we have the Great Commission. We're to go and make disciples of people. It's not to go and ride a bike. It's not to go and write a book. It's to make disciples. And so, that is really going the extra mile.
Got it. Throughout this journey, Evan, what moment most challenged your faith and what moment most strengthened it?
I'm going to start with the one where one of the things that really challenged me was that I blew up at one of my good friends in the middle of a bike ride, and it's all in the book and it's in detail. But I yelled at him in front of everybody because we had been cycling for 4 hours. I hadn't eaten in 8 hours. I was not being myself, or I was being the worst of myself. And that was challenging because it's like, God, like I'm obviously not enough. I'm obviously not the leader I should be right now. I'm obviously not in control and like exhibiting like what's the point of doing something if and I had a lot of leaders growing up that they talked a big game and then they would treat people poorly. And I think that that is the opposite of what a Christian leader should do. And so that was a big thing for me that I had to confront. I had to apologize in front of everybody, and actually I still work with this person today, so he gave me permission to include it in the book.
Oh
um,
wow.
what most built my faith was we were 18 people, and we were in three cars and six bikes cycling across South America, and we were raising money. There was hyperinflation. Churches that were supposed to support us and pay, for the events, they weren't able to do it. We were bleeding money. Um, and I didn't know what to do. We were raising this money, and the nonprofit we were supposed to work with, they didn't even show up. And so I go, what do I do with all of this? And we had two Venezuelan Paralympic athletes, and they were each missing their right leg. And they in their pictures had prosthetics, but when they got to Chile, they didn't have prosthetics. And so I was faced with just this situation where my sister, who's a doctor, she was on the ride with us, and she was telling me that like one of them had a prosthetic, but it was not fitted well. So if he did not do it, like get a new one, he could lose more of his leg because it was rubbing so much. And so, that was, I had never bought prosthetics. I didn't know how much they were. I was like seeing these prosthetics for $100,000. I was like, this is nuts. But we didn't have enough money for them. And I just did a Hail Mary. And I was praying and I was like, God, if you would make this happen, that would be absolutely incredible. And so obviously it was a good result. And I encourage everyone to read the book because that story in and of itself is enough to write the book and just to build up people's faith. And it was, to see people come from a country where there is no hope, leave with hope, to not know Jesus and to leave knowing Jesus and to have to use crutches to walk and leave. There were a couple being able to hold hands while they walk was the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow. All
Wow.
right. So Greg has this final question he asks the celebrity. This is a deep one, Evan. Be ready.
I'm sure you'll nail this one because I already know your answer, I think, but I'm excited to ask you. So thanks so much, Evan. Tell me, what do you feel is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
I think to love your neighbor as yourself. Like, I mean, and it applies like literally in everything. I mean, I'm a married man, and to love my wife as myself, to love my children as myself. Um, when you think through that lens, you love God and you love your neighbor as yourself. You start to act like if you love yourself, I mean, that really depends on how much you love yourself,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But
Yeah.
if you understand God's love for you and you treat other people like that, I mean, you're setting yourself up for success.
All right. Well, best place we can pick up the book, Evan. Where can we go?
It's on Amazon, it's on my website, evancraftmusic.com. Anywhere you buy books, just ask them for it and they can get it to your house.
And then they can follow you in all your social media. You have a huge following. So congrats on that for sure.
Thank you so much.
All right. That